Well, 2022 is officially over. Now we're in 2023. But let's actually go back to 2022 because it was such a good year for horror films. And if you guys know by now, horror films is my favorite genre of films. I mean, horror films really do have a great story and they have a good amount of kills. And I love them. And this year we got a lot of good ones. Then we got the shit ones. But overall, in today's video, I will be ranking my top 10 favorite horror films from 2022. So without further ado, let's get on with the rest of the video. Hold on, before we get started with the video, I just want to let you guys know that you guys should definitely like this video. I know it's the beginning, but it helps out a lot. Also, comment down below right after the video ends what were your thoughts on the video and what you guys want to see on the channel. It helps a lot as well. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell whenever you guys want to be notified whenever I upload a brand new video. That's very, very helpful and it helps me out as well. Anyways, let's get on with the rest of the video. Thank you. Okay, so we're starting off the list at number 10, and for number 10, I have Fresh. Now, Fresh is a horror film from Searchlight Pictures, which originally premiered on Hulu, and this film is about this girl named Noah, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, and she's been recently doing some online dating, and most of the people that she's been going on dates with is either disrespectful or rude guys, but then while at the market, she meets Steve, and he's played by Sebastian Stan. And he starts flirting with Noah, and eventually they exchange numbers with each other, and they eventually hit it off and start dating. And Noah decides one day to spend the rest of the night at Steve's house, but Steve ends up drugging her and making her unconscious, and once she wakes up, she is chained to the ground and Steve is revealed to be a cannibal. I really had fun with this movie. I mean, when the movie had its first trailer released, I watched it and I thought to myself that this one was going to be an interesting one. So I watched it eventually once it came out on Hulu, and it was really good. I liked the performances that we got from Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan. I mean, her performance as Noah was really, really good, and she had great chemistry with Sebastian Stan in my opinion. His performance in this film was really good as well, besides him as Bucky in the MCU. But besides that role, this right here is his best performance, you know, as this villain, I guess you could say, or as the antagonist. But for number 10, I have Fresh. Okay, so we're at number 9 now, and for number 9, I have Nope. Now, Nope is the third film coming from Jordan Peele and Universal after the success of their two films that they worked on together, which were Get Out and Us. And this time, this film is about these two siblings, played by Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, who discover something strange in the skies above their horse ranch, which they own, and they want to go ahead and discover what's that thing in the sky. Now, I thought this one was a really good movie. At first, I thought that it was very confusing, so I went ahead to the movie theaters once again and gave it a rewatch, and I really focused on it, and after doing that, I truly understood it and I enjoyed it. I mean, I really like Jordan Peele's direction in this movie. Now, I wouldn't say this is his worst project, but I would put Us and Get Out over this film, but the writing and direction was amazing. And yeah, the performances here were really good, and I would say the best one in this movie was definitely Keke Palmer. I mean, she was amazing and she definitely stole the spotlight. And I also enjoyed the performances we got from Daniel Kaluuya and Steven Yeun. And honestly, I cannot wait for what's next for Jordan Peele, and I hope he continues for what he does best, because this film was absolutely amazing with its visuals and so much more. But for number 9, I have Nope. Okay, so we're at number 8, and for number 8, I have Smile. Now, Smile is a horror film from Paramount Pictures, and it's about this therapist who witnesses a suicide, and after seeing that, she starts going through some frightening and disturbing experiences that's hard for her to explain, which she thinks to herself that she's experiencing something supernatural. I thought this film was really, really good, and the performances here were amazing. Saucy Bacon as Dr. Rose Cotter was really, really good, and when the movie was first announced, I'm not gonna lie, I thought the film was gonna flop and not do well with critics, but I ended up watching it and seeing it in theaters, and I thought this one was really good, with its performance especially from Saucy Bacon, and the visuals in here are very, very amazing. And the film was initially set to premiere on Paramount Plus, but after receiving positive reactions from test screenings, the film went to get a theatrical release and it did well. And I also want to give credit to Paramount for even going hard on the promotions. Like literally, they had people at baseball games smile and so much more. Like that's actually insane. For number 8, I have Smile. We are now at my favorite number 7, and for number 7, I have Terrifier 2. Now, Terrifier 2 is the sequel to Terrifier from 2016, which is directed by Damien Leone, and it stars David Howard Thornton once again as Art the Clown, who has now become like a big horror icon after this sequel came out. And the film is about Art being resurrected, and it's been about a year since that whole event had happened with Art from the first movie. So in this movie, we have a new protagonist / final girl, which is Sienna Shaw, and it's Halloween night, and Art decides to go ahead and terrorize this girl and her little brother. Now, I didn't see this one in theaters, but once I heard that it was coming to Amazon Prime Video, I had to go ahead and watch it, and I ended up buying myself Amazon Prime Video and got a free trial with the Screenbox channel subscription on there. And I watched the movie, and the movie didn't disappoint me at all. I mean, from it having a $250,000 budget and earning $11.5 million at the box office, that is a big win for everybody who worked on the film. I mean, I think this film was really well done, and I prefer this sequel over the first film. I mean, the film, has a certified fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes with an 86%, which is very good for a low-budget film. And I think this film was perfect, and it made Art the Clown more popular and more of a bigger horror icon. And the writing in here was great, and the kills got way more gory than the first film, which I found gross, but very iconic. And I honestly hope that we get a third film, to make this sort of like a trilogy, because I really did enjoy this movie a lot. But for number 7, I have Terrifier 2. We are now at number 6, and for number 6, I have The Black Phone. Now, The Black Phone is a film which originally premiered in 2021, but it got a theatrical release worldwide in 2022, and the film is made by Universal and was directed by Scott Derrickson, who directed The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Sinister, and Doctor Strange. And originally, he was set to direct Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but he left to go ahead and direct this movie, which I'm glad he did because this film was awesome. Now, this film is about this boy named Finn, and he gets abducted by this deranged captor called the Grabber, and he's played by Ethan Hawke. And with Finn being abducted, he uses the Black Phone to go ahead and communicate with the previous victims of the Grabber, and they give him advice and ideas on how he can escape. Now, this film was so awesome that the kid actors in here did an amazing job in the movie. I mean, I really enjoyed Ethan Hawke as the Grabber. I mean, I thought he played the villain part very, very well, and his performance literally scared the shit out of me. And I'm glad that Scott Derrickson left Doctor Strange 2 to go ahead and work on this film, because he did a great job directing it and writing it. For number 6, I have The Black Phone. Okay, so we're starting off the top 5 list at number 5. And for number 5, I have Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Now, this is a horror comedy movie from A24, and the film is about these group of 20-year-olds who reunite at their rich friend's house for a hurricane party, which they end up getting stuck staying there, and they decide to play this party game called Bodies, 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 which in reality, it's literally Among Us. But the game goes bad after one of their friends end up getting actually killed, so therefore, they go ahead and try to find out who the killer is. I thought this film was really funny. I mean, everybody in this film brings in a lot of humor, and the film is directed by Helena Regin, and it stars Maria Bakalova, Amanda Stenberg, Rachel Sennott, Chase Zoe Wonders, Myha'la Herrold, Lee Pace, and P. Davidson. That's literally the whole entire cast list, and they all give really good performances. I mean, this film will seem more like a comedy, but it is indeed a horror film, especially if it's coming from A24, which, not gonna lie, A24 has been my favorite this year. I highly recommend this movie to you guys because it's funny and it's great, and also it has one of the funniest plot twists I've ever seen. But for number 5, I have Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Okay, so now we're at number 4, and for number 4, I have Pearl. Now, Pearl is the second film in the X trilogy, which makes it the second film right after the film X that was created this year by the director Ty West and A24. And yes, I really do love A24 this year. Now, the film is about Pearl, who was the old lady in X, played once again by Mia Goth. Now, Pearl lives at this farm with her strict mother and her sick father, and all she wants to do is to be famous and become a movie star. But when things don't go her way, it leads to a violent act that she commits, and I loved watching this film. I mean, the origin story they gave to Pearl was amazing, and the fact that Ty West and Mia Goth secretly shot this film, I mean, I'm very impressed. I think Ty West's directing style and writing is very amazing, and Mia Goth's performance in here was amazing to the point where the Academy should go ahead and recognize horror films for the writing and performances, because if anything, Mia Goth deserves a Best Actress Oscar for her performance. For number 4, I have Pearl. Okay, so now we're at number 3, and for number 3, I have Scream, or Scream 5. Now, this is a reboot done by Paramount, which brings back some of the original cast and brings in a new cast. And the film is about Ghostface appearing once again after 25 years from the original Woodsboro murders, but this time he is targeting a brand new group of teens who are somehow each linked to the original killings. Now, this was the first film in the Scream franchise to not be directed by Wes Craven after he unfortunately passed away in 2015. Rest in peace. This film was more of a tribute to him, and taking over the director's chair were the two co-creators of Radio Silence, Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. All I can say is that Paramount made the right choice in hiring these two to go ahead and direct it, and I saw this film on my birthday because that was the day it came out, and I loved it. And if you know me already, I love the Scream franchise so much, and if you don't believe me, go ahead and watch my top 10 list of favorite horror movies of all time. Link in description. But yeah, this was actually one of the first films that came out in 2022, and it did well with great reviews. And in this cast, we get the return of Neve Campbell as Sydney, Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers, David Arquette as Dewey Riley, and Marley Shelton as Sheriff Judy from Scream 4. And also returning is Skeet Ulrich as Billy Loomis. And yes, he's still dead, but he appeared as a hallucination. And for this new cast, we got Melissa Barrera as Sam Carpenter, and playing her half-sister Tara Carpenter is Jenna Ortega, which all I can say is that she had one of the biggest years ever full of success, so congratulations, Jenna. But moving forward, we got Jack Quaid playing Richie, aka Sam's boyfriend. Oh hey, it's Yuhi. And then we got Mikey Madsen as Amber, Dylan Milanette as Wes, aka Judy's son. Then we got Sonia Amar as Liv. We get Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown as Mindy and Chad, who are the twin niece and nephew of Randy Meeks. Also, making a cameo in this movie is James and Chelsea from Dead Meat, and they play a host of a fictional YouTube channel called Film Fails, and if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to their real channel, Dead Meat. Be good people. But besides that big cast list, I really enjoyed this movie. It indeed felt like a tribute to Wes Craven, and the characters in here are actually enjoyable characters, and I like that they brought back Sydney and Dewey and Gail, and even some of the original cast for hidden cameos. Overall, I enjoyed it. I think that this one definitely made fans of the franchise happy, and as much as I'm excited for Scream 6 this year, I'm still sad that Neve Campbell won't be returning as Sydney, but I still can't wait. But anyways, for number 3, I have Scream 5. Okay, so now we're at number 2, and for number 2, I have Barbarian. Now, Barbarian is a film from 20th Century Studios, and it's about this girl named Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, who rents an Airbnb, but she realizes that there's actually somebody else named Keith, played by Bill Skarsgård, who's currently staying there, and he decides to invite her in to stay for the night, which she accepts, but she discovers a scary basement with a secret room. I really enjoyed this movie. The movie's directed by Zach Krieger, and he wrote it as well, and the film as well had a short budget of $4.5 million, and it earned $45.3 million at the box office, and the cast includes Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long. Bill Skarsgård was really good in this movie, but the two performances that really spoke were Georgina Campbell and Justin Long. This was probably one of her biggest roles ever, and she's the main lead of this movie, and she gave such a great performance. Justin Long in here was really great as well. His character was this famous TV actor who gets fired from a show due to rape allegations, and he decides to leave LA and go back to Detroit to the rental house he owns, which is the house that Tess and Keith were living in, and his character in this movie, all I can say is that he makes a lot of dumb decisions. But besides that, I really thought that he was great in this movie. I know he seems like a comedy actor, but he can also play serious roles as well. I mean, he's been in other iconic horror films like Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell and Jeepers Creepers. And I had fun with this movie a lot, from the horror and the performances and the kills and the writing. I'm just so mad at Disney that they didn't release this film on Blu-ray at least. But for number 2, I have Barbarian. Okay, so before we get on to the number 1 spot, I do have a few honorable mentions, and the first one I like to give an honorable mention to is Violent Night. This was the most recent one that came out, and David Harbour as Santa Claus was pretty badass. Next up is Men, another film by A24, but I just thought this film was decent in my opinion. Next up, Werewolf by Night. I love Marvel films, and for this being a special, I loved it. I just wish that it was a full-length film. Next up, Prey. Probably one of the best films in the Predator franchise. Next up, Hellraiser, the 2022 remake. It was a decent remake, but I still prefer the original film. Next up, The Menu. A very strange film, yet I seem to enjoy it very much. Another strange film that I watched, Bones and All, but Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell's performances really had my attention. Then next up, Crimes of the Future. David Cronenberg can really make disturbing but really good films. Next up, Orphan First Kill. I like the sequel equally with the first, and that's why I enjoyed this one. Another film I enjoyed this year, Hocus Pocus 2. A decent sequel, just a bit underrated. Next up, Day Shift. Jamie Foxx and Dave Franco as a vampire hunting duo was amazing. I hope this one gets a sequel, hopefully. Next, No Exit. A very entertaining movie, just wish the ending was a little bit different. And lastly, Studio 666. The Foo Fighters made a good horror flick with some humor added, and of course, rest in peace to Taylor Hawkins. And now we're headed on to the dishonorable mentions, aka the worst horror movies of 2022. And the first one on the list, Halloween Ends. It was a terrible and disappointing film to end off a franchise. Next up, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A terrible and disappointing film to bring back a franchise. Next up, Firestarter. It wasted Zac Efron's acting talent, and it was such a terrible remake. Next up, Rob Zombie's The Munsters. I mean, I like Rob Zombie's films, but this one wasn't it. Next up, I have The Invitation. I love vampire films, but this is one of the few vampire films that I actually disliked. And finally, the worst horror film of 2022 was Jeepers Creepers Reborn. I mean, this was a terrible film with its terrible visuals, terrible dialogue, and I mean, everything about this film was just straight up awful, and it's a disrespectful film to a cult classic, although I do not like or support the director of the original film. Anyways, now let's head on to the final spot of the video, number 1. Okay, so now we are at number 1, and for number 1, I have X. Now, X is a horror film from A24, and it's the first film in the X trilogy, and it's directed by Ty West. The film is about these group of people who rent a place from an elderly couple, and they're renting the place because they want to go ahead and film a porno movie, but they end up getting caught, which leads the elderly couple to go ahead and kill them off. Now the cast is stacked with Mia Goth, Martin Henderson, Brittany Snow, Kid Cudi, and Jenna Ortega. I was highly excited for this movie to come out after the trailer and when I seen it, and I fucking enjoyed it, man. I mean, throughout the whole film, watching it, it was a masterpiece, and Ty West's direction in this film was amazing, along with his writing, and everybody in this film gave great performances, and the kills were insane, and it was very gory, and Mia Goth as Maxine/Pearl was just perfect. I mean, the film gave me such a great vibe, and it felt like I was watching a 70s slasher film. A24 definitely put out great films this year, and this one, in my opinion, was the successful and best horror film of the year. And for number 1, I have X. Alright, and that wraps up my video for my top 10 favorite horror movies of 2022. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit late on this video. I know, but I was busy. But yeah, overall, if you guys liked the list, leave a like. Comment down below what was your top 10 favorite horror movies of 2022. and subscribe if you're new, and click the bell whenever you guys want to be notified when I upload a brand new video. But that wraps up this whole entire video. Thank you for watching, and Happy New Year's to you guys. Hopefully 2023 is slightly better. Peace.
I'm the one, bitch, I am the one, like Keanu Reeves, get it done, yeah, I get it done, no blood on the leaves, they can't leave us hanging, no, not no more, best believe, yeah, that shit is banging, Bobby killed it with no time to grieve, I'm the one, bitch, I am the one, like Keanu Reeves, get it done, yeah, I get it done, no blood on the leaves, they can't leave us hanging, no, not no more, best believe, yeah, that shit is banging, Bobby killed it with no time to grieve, at the garden sitting courtside, looking around like, oh my god, I just sold this motherfucker out, I ain't even try, I ain't wanna flaw.